Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in this beautiful world, and welcome to the Ingest and Transform Data session today for the DP-203 to DP-700 exam.
Yes,
Cool.
hello, good evening, good morning. Hello, everyone.
All right, let's start with introducing ourselves. That's maybe the nice way to start this of this session. My name is Reactor. I'm working for a company called Actions Business Analytics in the Netherlands. I'm working there as a technical consultant. I'm a data platform engineer, and if you want to find me online, you can use the links that should show up on the screen right now for my Blue Sky, my blog site, or my LinkedIn profile. Camille, would you introduce yourself, please?
Absolutely, yes. My name is Kamil, and I'm living in UK, but originally I'm from Poland. I'm working for Avanade, also as a consultant, analytics architect. Also, you can find me on the social media, on my blog, and on my YouTube channel. And I would like to add also that I'm very happy to be here with my friend today, presenting together this session for you guys. So, thank you.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a lot of fun, but we're not alone. We've got some moderators as well in the chat on the YouTube channel. They are going to help us out with all the questions. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat and they will help you out, because Ilgar and Michelle are really knowledgeable about this subject. All right, that's all with all the humans. We're here for the exam DP-700 Fabric Data Engineer. You're here, so you've probably followed this link. If you're rewatching this, you can follow the link shown on screen to register and find all the previous episodes or the next ones, because there's going to be more. So in a few months or weeks, or however you want to look at it, we've got the big Microsoft Fabric Community Conference coming up in Las Vegas. I wasn't there in Las Vegas last year. I was in the European one in Stockholm, and it was absolutely amazing. So if you've got a chance to go there, please do. And there's still a discount, as you can see on the ticker on the screen, where you can get some a nice discount to go there. Also, there's a discount for the exam. If you follow this and you've got the exam or you want to take the DP-700 exam, use this discount to get a 50% discount. It just helps.
Absolutely, absolutely, it helps, and you need to just register yourself. So get this and save this link, and you will see what you need to do. There's a very simple process. So yeah, please do save this link in your favorites, or just write it down. And this session is very live and interactive. We would like to have this form of the session like this. So yeah, say hello on the chat, talk to our moderators, fantastic moderators, and ask any questions you have during this session. We'll try to answer those questions at the end of the session. If our moderators won't be first and quicker than us. So yeah, of course, please do it. As Reese mentioned, we would like to learn you something, teach you something, and also we would like to have a fun during this session. Yeah. So let's go and kick off the session. So this session is particularly the series, the second episode of series about the DP-700, and this particular one is about the ingest and transform data. And what we will cover today during this session. So first topic, we'll cover what is the comparison, what is the skills comparison between DP-203 and DP-700. You might heard that 203 is no longer valid and will be retired, or it's retired already. So if you are preparing, or if you already learned something about 203, some of those skills will be able to use and try to pass the exam 700. Yeah. The next thing we'll be doing a little bit about the Microsoft Fabric. If you haven't heard about this, what is that, what is offer, and etc. Not that much, but at least to give you some overview. Yes, the next one will be ingest and transform with two modes. The first one will be batch data in batch modes, and the other one would be streaming data. So doing the same, ingesting the data from many different systems and transforming those. And design and implement loading patterns. So we'll cover the most important loading patterns and explain the differences between them. And then at the end, some practical tips for success, for your success. So that's the most important thing. Okay, let's move on.
And let's talk about the skill comparison between the DP-203 and the DP-700, because there are, well, maybe many differences. So let's start with a rough high-level overview, where you can see on the top the DP-203, where there's the design and implementation of purely the data storage. We've got the develop the data processing, and on the right side, you can see secure, monitor, and optimize the data storage. At the bottom of the screen, you can see the DP-700, where things are quite a bit different. And you can see that both the colors are a bit different, or the placement of the colors is somewhat different, but also the intensity of the questions will be different. So let's dig in a little bit deeper, because we've got a really nice slide where we can see both exams compared to each other. So if we start with the DP-203 exam, it's partitioning strategy, data exploration layers, ingesting, transforming data, batch stream solutions, managing all those things, but also implementing a lot of security. So data security, but also monitoring the storage, the data processing, and optimizing a lot of stuff. As you know, DP-203 is based on the, let's call it regular Azure environment with all the moving parts you need to deploy. When we move to the DP-700, as Fabric is a one-in-all solution, a lot of things have moved or changed. So for the implementation of the analytics solution, it's more like configuring all the workspace settings, which should be familiar for you if you've been working with Power BI. It's implementing lifecycle management, connecting it to Git or Azure DevOps. Of course, you need to configure your security and governance, but it's in a different place in the end. It also focuses more on ingesting and transforming data. So the loading patterns that we'll get to later today, the ingesting and transforming of data, whether it's batch or streaming data, it's the main topic of our session today. But there's a lot of focus on that part. And lastly, there's monitoring the Fabric items, identifying errors because things will go wrong, and optimizing performance, because even though Fabric is a really strong solution, you need to optimize stuff. So when you've got a list of key differences, you can read them for yourself. But in the end, DP-203, the Azure Data Engineer, is really on the broad range of all the Azure services that are available. All the security you need to implement across all the Azure tools, making it work, and making it ideal for all the people who are working in all those environments. When you look at the DP-700, and that's a bit of the change with Microsoft Fabric as well, when you're looking at the role of the data engineer, it's all in one unified platform. So the exam only focuses on that single platform, being Microsoft Fabric. As you know, DP-203 will become a legacy exam, and it will be retired on March 31st. So if you haven't taken it, I'd suggest don't do it and move to the DP-700. If you have taken it and you can extend it for a year, I did it 2 weeks ago, just go for it, but remember, it's the last time you can do it. But this is the general story. I think it's time we get a little bit deeper into Fabric and all the other stuff.
Cool, absolutely. Thank you very much, Reese. Okay, let's have a look on Microsoft Fabric overview and like from the high-level perspective, what is that? Yeah. So first of all, Microsoft Fabric is a unified data platform. So and you probably saw many different icons on some documentations, presentations, videos, and many different kind of experiences. So those experiences are data factory, data engineering, data warehouse, data science, and real-time intelligence, and of course Power BI, which you know already for a very long time. So Power BI is still, very important part of the Microsoft Fabric, but next to it, they appeared new kind of experiences and features. So what is the data factory? If you know Azure Data Factory, this is very close to it. It is like almost one-to-one. Yeah, there's some nuances which might not be supported, but also there's some additional features that you will not see in Azure Data Factory. So in general, this data factory experience helps you to set up the data integration, ingest the data, and also using Power Query. So that's it. This is for your ingestion. Then data engineering, actually, this together with data warehouse is my favorite one, because you can use Spark engine and open notebooks to write your code. Coding with a PySpark, with SQL Spark as well. So building your data transformation using code. Not kind of like a low code when you have Power Query, for example, but really like a coding if you prefer to do that. Yeah, you have more flexibility here, and etc. And then data warehouse is data warehouse with like leading SQL performance in the industry to allows you to just build the model and etc. For your reports, for example. Yeah. I forgot to mention that also in the data engineering, you have also some other storage, which is called lakehouse. Yeah, so you can decide whether you would like to keep the data in the lakehouse or warehouse. Yeah, data science. This gives you the whole Azure machine learning experience and machine learning stuff to do your experiments and training models and etc. So this is another area where your data science can work within the same unified data platform and product. Yeah. And real-time intelligence, you can use it. We will cover this, of course, later on as well with more details. But this is for scenarios where you need to provide more quicker ingestion, like generally, often done 15 minutes, often done 5 minutes, almost near real time. Yeah. So, in this case, you can ingest the data from many sources, transform if needed, and copy that and export that data to different formats, to Lakehouse, to Event House, and etc. So we'll mention that later. And, Power BI, you know that already. Very, very good product, fantastic for reporting, dashboards, applications, for whatever your business users needs, and represent interactively your data. Yeah, that's why you're building all those things and using data platform. Yeah, at the end, there's some business users that want to use the reports and actually get the value from the data. That's it. So let's move on. And yeah, the most important thing, maybe not the most important, but very important thing here is that you have unified experience. Unified experience like business model, compute and storage, security and governance, and also Microsoft Fabric as a SaaS product. So it's a SaaS model. And below all those experiences, you have one unified storage, which is called OneLake. So this is a very key component across or in Microsoft Fabric that allows you to store all your data and work securely. Okay, so let's move on and take a look how those experiences are mapping to the kind of languages, to the features, and etc. So first of all, what I would like to mention here during this slide, as I mentioned, there's one lake where you can store all your data. Structured, unstructured, semi-structured, which means that you can store all the files for example, raw layer or bronze layer when it comes to the medallion architecture. Okay, so but also there's plenty of features that allows you to save time and efforts and costs, and also sometimes not duplicating even data, for example, using shortcuts. So for example, you can use shortcuts or multi-cloud shortcuts to just create that kind of bridge to your sources, like to Dataverse, Google or Amazon S3 or any Azure blob storage or ADLS. Yeah. So with these shortcuts, you don't have to copy data or ingest the data. You can just use it as a additional, let's say, file location or storage location or database, yeah, as if that part of your fabric workspace. So as I mentioned, using Spark, you can use this in data factory, data engineering. You can use TCQL when it comes to the data warehousing or building warehouse, data warehouse. Or with real-time intelligence, we are talking about KQL, which is Custom Query Language. And analysis service is a feature or product behind the Power BI, which helps you to do the stuff with the presentation interactions and everything what is related to Power BI reports. And worth also to mention about mirroring, which is really great and fantastic features that without building ETL process or pipelines with the data factory allows you to copy the data from your sources. And the list of those supported sources is growing every month. Yeah, so currently there's Azure SQL Database, there's MongoDB, there's Azure SQL Database, there's ADLS, and as far as I remember, there's a few more, but you can check that on the documentation on the Microsoft Learn. And as I mentioned, it's growing. So without building additional process, you can just read the data. Okay. What else? Why Microsoft Fabric actually? So there's few reasons I already mentioned: the unified product, the SaaS, and you don't have to, spin up your and worry about the whole infrastructure and etc. like for other services. This is SaaS model, so you can create the Fabric workspace and start actually playing with not only Fabric, not only Power BI experience, but also everything building end-to-end platform, including the ingestion, transformation, replication of data. So all that good stuff you have in one place. Yeah. So as I mentioned, this is the unified platform. So you have all this data integration in one place. Whether it's talking about the batch mode, micro batch, or streaming, ingesting data. At the source, but also at the target, you can use the same one platform end-to-end. And it's also centralized data management. With one lake, Fabric offers a unified data lake that simplifies data management and access. And this centralized approach ensures that all data is stored in one single location, make it, of course, easier to manage, govern, and share data across the organization. So AI and machine learning capabilities are there as well. We were not going to focus on those features in this episode, but they are there. Real-time insights, this is what we covered later on this session, so bear with us. Okay, so that's it from this perspective. And then data, Microsoft data integration, like for who this product is. So you can have actually two approaches, let's say, yeah. On the left, it's more for data integration professional. Yeah, so if, for example, you prefer, as I mentioned, building the ETL, ELT process with the code, so you can do it with pipelines, with the notebooks and etc. But also you can use Power Query if you are more kind of like a end user or citizen data integration called in this slide. Yeah, so seamlessly you can integrate all your data using no-code approach or low-code approach. So with that experience, you don't have to have any specific kind of skills, writing a code and etc. Yeah. So if you know Azure Data Factory already or Synapse Analytics, so this Microsoft Fabric experience, Data Factory experience in Microsoft Fabric won't be that everything new for you, because you will see that very many things are exactly the same like in Azure Data Factory. Yeah, so there's no surprise for you, and you can reuse your skills and knowledge. And yeah, that's two words can be combined in Microsoft Fabric, because as I mentioned, no code, low code, or coding approach is very nicely integrated in Microsoft Fabric, which is a unified experience. So both professionals and citizens, developers or users can use this platform for their needs, for their projects, and build the experience, for example, and etc. Okay, now let's talk about the ingest and transform batch data, and I will over to Ritz.
Yes, let's talk about the real work that's being done inside Microsoft Fabric, which is mostly in ingesting and transforming batch data. Of course, at the end, we're going to do reporting on it, but before you can do that, you need to ingest it. But what is batch data? Well, to put it simply, batch data is data that keeps coming in at a low pace. Like Camille said a little earlier in this session, you've got the real-time data that keeps coming in every millisecond, every second, every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes. But batch data is also data that's being processed for workloads that don't require the immediate access and insights. It's like, let's load it at the night and do the reporting during the day. It's a bit slower, but also large volumes of data. Usually it's like getting all the data from a source system and presenting and creating a model. I'm sorry. So let's dig into this section and get a little bit into the fundamentals and maybe a little beyond as well. So when we're loading data into Fabric, we've got a few options to load data into. We've got a lakehouse, the warehouse, and the SQL database. Camille already lightly touched on those. The lakehouse is ideal for storing large volumes of data in its native format, whether it's structured data, unstructured data, or semi-structured data like JSON or XML. It supports a lot of stuff. And it scales like mad. For me, it doesn't matter if I'm putting JSON, XML, CSV, or whatever into it. It'll handle it, and it will present me with the data, which works really, really well. When you're looking at the warehouse, it's, as Camilo also explained, more structured. It's the SQL environment, and if you're an old-fashioned SQL Server DBA like me, you like your data structured in tables, in columns, and nothing can be nil unless it has to be nil, etc. It's a different approach to your data. So it has a different use case as well. But But the fun part is both the lakehouse and the warehouse have SQL endpoints, so you can query your data in whichever way you want. And it also integrates with a lot of other Azure services and provides a lot of powerful capabilities. Finally, we've got the SQL database, which is, I wouldn't call it a new kid on the block, because it's been the SQL database has been around forever. In Azure, it's been the Azure SQL database, but now it's available within Fabric as well, and it makes us it makes sense to use it, because if you're really good in SQL, you can just use the SQL database within Fabric. All your queries will work, all your syntax will work. It's a great option to choose from. But which one do you choose in which scenario? That's a big question. So the lakehouse, as I just mentioned, you use it when you need to store diverse data types, unstructured data or semi-structured data, and when you want to do big analytics or machine learning stuff. That's the best way to use the lakehouse. When you're going to the warehouse, especially for your large scaling data warehousing needs, and you need to integrate with a lot of other Azure services and perform advanced analytics on it. It's a little bit of a different use case. The SQL database is when you need to manage all your structured data with your asset properties, so atomicity, consistency, all the stuff that comes with the asset, and you need to require or need to use your complex queries and transactions. Again, a little bit of a different approach. So let's dig in a little bit deeper on all three of these. And if I'm not mistaken, we're starting with the lakehouse, where we start working with the lakehouse inside of Fabric. I hope everybody can see what's happening on the screen, as the slide is a little bit busy. But the foundation of your batch data storage in Microsoft Fabric is the lakehouse, built on top of the OneLake. So as we know, the OneLake contains all the data, and slowly we're putting data into it. You can see your data or get to your data through a lakehouse or a warehouse, but everything is stored in your OneLake. And the lakehouse is a unified platform, so it combines everything that we know from the data lake. So the lakehouse is a unified platform. It's got the flexibility and the scalability of the data lake that we already know. But you can also query and analyze the data like it's a data warehouse. So it's got a bit of both. The lakehouse can represent itself as a database as well. It's built on top of Delta format tables. So you can also reference it like the Synapse serverless pool, where there was a kind of sort of database on top of Parquet files. In this case, it's Delta format table, so it's a little bit different. But you can use your SQL capabilities. But remember, SQL isn't fully supported, which means that not every part of the syntax is supported. So you need to find out what works and what doesn't work. But you've also got the flexibility of your data lake. And as I mentioned, the lakehouse stores every kind of format, and you can, most of the time, query this format as well. You can just right-click on the file and ask in your lakehouse, ask your lakehouse to create a query and get your data from that file. So what are the main benefits? It utilizes Spark and SQL engines for large-scale data processing and all the other stuff happening in the background. You can do machine learning, predictive modeling. It works fantastic. It supports asset transactions in a different way than we're used to with SQL, but it has a support, and it's a centralized location for all your data engineers, scientists, and analysts to get to your data. Can you create one lakehouse, many lakehouses? You can create as many as you like. You can create one lakehouse in one workspace. You can create 10 lakehouses in your workspace. There's no, well, probably there is a limit, but I haven't found it yet. So yeah, you can create a lot of them. And it's not really that hard to create it. It's like add a resource. I want to have a lakehouse. You can choose between a lakehouse with or without schemas, and you're done. Also, when your lakehouse is created, you get a default semantic model based on all the tables in your lakehouse. So you can even leverage that capability to immediately build your Power BI reports, which is kind of cool. And there's a SQL Analytics endpoint where you can just fire SQL queries against the lakehouse and it will return the data. But luckily, there's more than just the lakehouse. There's always the warehouse, also the warehouse experience. So the data warehouse is a little bit different, as I mentioned, because it's more aimed at using T-SQL. So you can use your stored procedures, the SQL queries you're used to insert and work with your data. It's fully transactional, so your asset principles are supported. It's managed, scalable, highly available. I have to say I haven't seen the warehouse go offline or be not reachable. Unreachable is the word I was looking for. So yeah, it works fine. And when you're using the warehouse, you've got full control of how you want to create your tables, the data types, stuff like that. Yeah, and you can use SQL, and that makes me, as a SQL DBA, a little bit happy. So you can build your relational layer on top of it, and yeah, there's a SQL editor where you can create your SQL queries. It has syntax highlighting, so kind of sort of what you can see in the Azure Data Studio as well. So you can see if you've made a typing mistake or whatever. And also you can connect with it with Azure Data Studio or SSMS or whatever tool you prefer to work with it. Another option is the Visual Query Editor, where you can just drag drop your tables together and create queries or your model and prepare it for reporting in Power BI. So there are a lot of options there to create your model and prepare it. So now there's also the option to really go hardcore SQL with the SQL database. And the Fabric SQL database uses the same infrastructure as the Azure SQL database. So it's not new, it's not something to be scared about, something that's been newly developed. It's like leveraging all the Azure SQL database options and possibilities within Fabric. In the background, they're using both the regular SQL database files we're used to, but it also mirrors to all the Delta Packet files, which means you can do everything with it that you're what you're expecting within the Fabric environment. Now, the SQL databases are serverless. And if you know serverless from Azure SQL, you know at some point the database is going to kind of sort of pause mode. So when you're reaching a database that's been unused for some time, you need to connect to it twice, because the first time the database will be starting and you get the weird error, it's not available. It's available, it's just starting up. For those of you who know more about Azure SQL databases, may have heard last year that there's a concept called Fleet Manager, and that's running in the background. So this Fleet Manager handles the provisioning and the scalability. It simplifies a lot of management for you, and it also makes sure that the SQL database is available within seconds. If I click Add a SQL database, within 3, 4, 5 seconds, the database is available and I can start working with it. I can click quite quickly through the Azure portal or deploy resources through code, but I can't provision an Azure SQL database in that short amount of time. I need more time. So it's a really fast solution, and you can work with it immediately. Just like all the other Fabric solutions, you can do all the stuff you want with it, with all the analytical workloads or the OTP workloads. Everything you're expecting works, but there's something extra built in, and that's source control integration with GitHub and Azure DevOps. So I can commit my database objects to Git. Let's keep the general name for it. I can develop against live database, I can track my changes, and I can update my database from code in the Git repository. So I don't need access to the database itself. I can just develop against my Git repository, changing stuff and deploying it.
That's my favorite, actually. I would like to say, like this is like really like SSDT, which is Secure Server Data Tools. You have exactly the same tools for CI/CD, which is continuous integration, continuous deployment. You can use the same DAC-FX or secure package or DAC-pack, whatever these phrases you heard about earlier. So this is exactly the same approach. Like you can deploy to Secure Server on-prem or Azure SQL Database in the cloud, of course, or in here in SQL Database in Fabric. So exactly the same set of skills, set of tools. So if you are familiar with that of those things already, great, you are set up.
Yeah, absolutely. So it gives you a flying start because you don't have to learn a new tool or skill in essence. It's just like, let's go. We've got a database. Just remember that when you delete stuff, it will also delete it in your environment. And if you suddenly drop all your tables, they're gone. So
and now on this slide, we see like how we can do the source controlling with the UI within the Fabric. Yeah.
Yep. So this is how you can see what's been happening, the changes that there are, if they're committed, if they're staged, or if they're well, maybe even declined. So you can see what's happening and get full control over the entire process, which is really cool. Now, we've been talking about data storage for some time, but there's also the thing about data ingestion. We need to get data inside of Fabric in some way. So there are a lot of options. And I'm not going to run through all of them because a lot of them can be quite simple. There are a few I want to highlight. Notebooks are really good to connect to APIs, for instance. You can just write the code and it will get the data and write it out. The Dataflows Gen 2 are the low-code, no-code solution where you just can get a number of objects. I want to select data from this. I want to join tables and write it out. Quite easy to do, whereas the notebooks are the full code experience. You've also got your data pipelines. But one of the best things, Camille highlighted earlier as well, are the shortcuts, where you can use a shortcut to get your data quickly in from whatever resource without actually copying the data, which makes life a lot easier. So the question is, which do you want to use at what moment? So there's a little ingestion guide on screen right here, which help you decide what to use when, whether it's a copy activity or Dataflow Gen 2 or the Spark. I would suggest there will be a link, or the link is running on the ticker right now. Check out that link and find out for yourself which one you want to use for the what do you call it, for the job you're working at. What do you want to do? Which one works best? One of my favorites is the copy activity, because it will help you quickly ingest full loads or delta loads from a source system. So if you've got a chance, please check that one out. But this has all been batch data, slowly changing data. But you've also got the real-time streaming data, which Camille is going to talk about right now.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Yeah, so next section is about ingest and transform data, streaming data, actually. Yeah, so this kind of real-time approach, real-time experience. Okay, so this is like another mode, another approach of ingesting data, and you will see this more and more often across the market, across your customers' needs or business requirements. So because those days data is your gold. Yeah, based on data, your business can make correct decisions. And in this ever-evolving world, data is changing very quickly. So make correct this business decision, you need to have not only clear and very good quality of data, but you need to have data quickly. You need to have your data refreshed in sometimes 15 minutes. Yeah, so that's why this real-time intelligence experience in Fabric. Okay, so let me talk about a little bit what this experience means and what we've got here. Okay, so you see on the screen that on this slide that real-time intelligence, that's the full name of the experience. It has its own hub in Microsoft Fabric, and this data analytics is commonly based on the ingestion and processing of data stream that consists of a series of data typically related to the specific point in time events. So, for example, a stream of data might contain details of messages submitted to a social media microblogging site, or a series of environmental measurements recorded by a internet-connected weather sensor, for example. Yeah. What kind of components do we have in here? So first of all, we have this event stream. Let me zoom maybe this a little bit, so if I can, yeah. So we have this this event stream here, so which is the kind of like a, maybe not black box fully, but this is like a box that helps you to just ingest and transform the data. Yeah, so ingest and process those data. Yeah, so that's the one element of the whole puzzle. And of course, this element, this event stream, allows you to get the data from many different supported sources, like Cosmos DB. You can ingest the change feed from there, like Azure SQL database, like other storages, not only from Azure Cloud. ADLS is not mentioned here, but it's definitely supported. And also, what else? Which I was Azure Event Hub, for example. It's also not mentioned here as an icon, but it's very well supported, fully supported as well. So with this event stream, that's your first step when you are creating the ingestion from sources. Okay. So what else? The other one is Event House. What is the Event House? Event House, you can think about it like a server for your data, SQL server or something similar, because this event house can contain multiple databases, and those databases are KQL databases. Okay, so in the event house, you can create your KQL databases, and those databases will store your data, your streaming data. Okay, and then, you know, from the event house, you can feed to the Power BI. You can analyze and transform those data, and also use something which is called Activator. I will cover this a little bit later, but with Activator, you can actually trigger automated actions based on configured alerts. Yeah. And then on top of that, you have tools or features like KQL query sets, which is kind of like a script if you're more familiar with SQL development like me. So it's you kind of like a script which can be saved in your environment, in your Fabric environment, and it's actually keep sets of KQL queries. Yeah, those KQL query sets can be used in the real-time dashboard, which is very similar to Power BI reports or dashboards, but with some, of course, limitations. So those dashboards allows you to present ever-changing data that is streaming to your event house. So that's you automatically refresh dashboards. So that's why there's some limitations, but Microsoft is doing great stuff to adding more and more features. And of course, it will never be exactly the same like Power BI reports, but that's not the case. That's not the goal. Yeah, but you can generally build great dashboards here, and they will be refreshing very often just for you. Yeah, that's the real-time hub. And of course, as I mentioned, behind the scenes, everything is unified with the one lake. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. When it comes to the event streams, what kind of data sources are supported? So first type of data sources is external services. External services are, so for example, they are like Azure Storage, Event Hubs, IoT Hubs, Kafka type of streaming, and CDC feeds, like, for example, Azure Cosmos DB. But there's more. So this event stream capture, transform, and load real-time data from various sources, as I mentioned. Yeah, and you can define the data processing engine, specify sources, destination, and transformations. So those data sources like external services, Fabric events as well. Microsoft Fabric has its own events that you can collect in your KQL database and event house. Yeah, so some changes to the Fabric workspace, one lake data stores, or Fabric jobs, and etc. And sample data. You can create the event stream using some sample data provided by Microsoft, and you can learn and play with those data. Those data are really not like a one-off ingestion. They are streaming to your workspace and to your event stream if you create it with this option. Then what kind of transformation you can do with event stream? So of course, your first step is ingesting the data and then transforming the data in the event stream inside of the event stream. So you can configure many things. So you can filter data based on field value, for example, null or not null. You can manage the fields, adding, removing, or renaming fields. You can aggregate using some, sum, min, max, average functions over time or events. You can group by, do these aggregates, with time window options. You can union and combine different nodes, because in the same, you can have more than one source. You can combine those nodes with the matching fields into the one table as a destination, for example. Or you can expand new rows for each array value, which is very often available in the JSON format, for example. Yeah, like you have the records or events. You can combine data from two streams based on matching conditions. When it comes to the data destinations, then you can put this stream after the transformation. Optionally, you can put those streams to the event house, which is, as I said, can contain multiple databases, KQL databases, or you can stream this directly to the lakehouse or to another event stream if you want. Or you can use Fabric Activator as well to just automate some alerts or actions based on the stream data. Or you can use custom endpoints, which route the events to the external systems. So as you can see, there's plenty of options you can have here, you can use here, and which is great because it gives you fantastic opportunity at phenomenal scale of performance. Okay, this is the example how we can store and query real-time data in our event house. So you have the database, you have this event house, you have the database, then you have some standard metrics showing you how many data you have in gigabytes, terabytes, and etc., how many activities. So there's some basic dashboards that you can see the basic information about your databases, the whole event house. Yeah, as I mentioned, you can use custom query language KQL to query and analyze your streaming data. So what else? That's the most important. That's the most important things. And then you can visualize those data in the real-time kind of model. Yeah. So as I mentioned already, there's some differences in terms of, there's some limitation in the real-time dashboards, but actually whatever you need to present in the real-time approach, this real-time dashboard features should actually address all your needs. Yeah, so you can build those dashboards using TQL queries directly from your TQL database. So that's the component of the Fabric real-time intelligence. Whereas the Power BI is a component of Fabric platform, but if you are building something like a real-time, the preferable way is to present this in the real-time dashboard rather than Power BI, because as you probably know, the Power BI, from the other perspective, Power BI has some limitation in terms of refresh and etc. Yeah. Okay, and then the Fabric or activator in Microsoft Fabric, with that you can automate some actions. So based on the event, you can create some configurations and create some alerting based on any field or many combination of fields based on your data, how actually data is changing on your stream. So you can monitoring, for example, temperature of some devices, that are streaming to your platform, and if the temperature exceeds some specific threshold, then you will raise some alerts, email, or maybe send some message on Microsoft Teams, and etc. Yeah. So that's fantastic opportunity, building things like this without any coding. Of course, you need to know some kind of like a formula approach and things like this, but there's no code approach for building features like this. If you have any experience with building something like this previously, you understand how much effort this requires. Yeah. So using like Azure Logic App, building the whole infrastructure, integrating all those things, here you have this by default. So I would like to encourage you to test it and check how this looks like and how it works. And manage data sources in the real-time hub. There's, as I mentioned, that the real-time intelligence experience has its own hub, its own icon on the left. So you can connect to the sources. You can subscribe, to the sources. You can create, activator alerts, create event streams, and preview your data as they go through your stream, and much more. With that, I think we can move to another section where we'll be talking about the loading patterns. Over to you, Rhys.
Yes, thank you, Camille. Well, to be honest, there are more or less two ways to load. Well, 2 or 3 ways to load data. It's either full and incremental, or we're going to do streaming data. So when you're going full load, it's like initial data migrations, the big loads. Whereas when we're doing incremental, it's like regular updates from large sets where we're doing from a certain point in time or a certain ID within a table. Incremental loads are especially useful for large tables with a lot of data and a lot of columns, which induces a lot of I/O and data transfer. Keep your loads as small as possible. That's my preference as well. Incremental wherever possible. When you're doing a real-time load, it's like the real-time analytics, event-driven applications, IoT data, stuff like that keeps on moving and keeps on coming in.
And this is actually this is nothing new, right?
No. It's the way we've always done it. But well, the thing is, what are you going to use at which point when you're doing this stuff in Fabric? So we've got a nice little slide that will help you guide a little bit on how to do that stuff. So if you're doing a full load, it's either Data Factory or Dataflow Gen 2 or notebooks. You can do the same for incrementals. The thing is, when you're doing a full load or incremental load within the data factory, use the copy job wherever possible. When you're going for the real-time load, move over to event stream, event hubs, and notebooks to make sure you get your data into Fabric as good as possible.
Exactly. And Rich, what's your maybe not favorite method, but that you used much more often?
I'm using the incremental load within Data Factory using the copy job. It's the easiest way. It works really, really fast and almost fail-safe. But what's yours?
Full and incremental. But like this is like this slide is about to kind of understand, or maybe this and the previous one is like really to understand and remember what is the differences, because this is like a very fundamental concept. And incremental load, as you mentioned, save your time, save amount of data that you ingest to the platform, and you of course don't want to wait hours for loading the same data, for example. So if you're ingesting some table like every hour, let's say, or even like every 8 hours or every day, you don't want to load the whole big table every single time. But if the table is small, sometimes it doesn't make sense to build the incremental process for loading small tables. Like by small tables, I mean like, I don't know, 1,000 record, 10,000 records, something like this. And also you can measure sometimes this in terms of, size of data, kilobytes, megabytes. Yeah,
exactly.
So,
So one of the ways to get your DP-700 exam certification successfully is, if you could move 2 slides ahead, because I'm moving a little over. The best way in my experience is hands-on practice. Go for it. Try stuff out. Try and find out what works and what doesn't work for you, but also to get yourself familiar with all the items and what they can and can't do.
Exactly, and especially that you can have Fabric trial version, so you can test and use the trial capacity within the Fabric and test all the stuff, what is good there, and practice what you can learn from many sources. What those are sources, like one of those is Microsoft Learn course, for example, or Pages.
Yeah, exactly. And some nice community resources as well, as you mentioned on the slide. So I think we need to slowly, hey, my site, cool.
This is your blog. I want to just mention, community resources, not only ours, but there's plenty of fantastic people out there that are presenting a lot of knowledge about, so like this is Rai's blog, this is my blog, this is my YouTube channel where I have specific Microsoft Fabric series. So there's plenty of resources out there.
So we're slowly moving towards the wrap up. As shown, this is a link to get to the old and new episodes. As mentioned at the beginning, Fabric Community Conference in Vegas is coming up. And I see some questions in the chat as well, which is really cool. Before we forget, a big shout out to the moderators in the chat who have been doing amazing work answering a lot of questions.
Thank you very much, guys.
It's amazing. One question about the KQL databases in the event house. Are they suitable for querying by applications? Which is, I think, a good question.
So let me take a look on the question. Are the KQL database in the event house suitable for querying by applications? Yes, I think so, because the performance is really, really fantastic. You can get the answer in the very quick manner. It's like a millisecond sometimes. Sometimes it's just a second. So it's like very often I saw from my experience below 1 second. So it's really, really fast. But of course, it's like also depends on the specific use case scenario. So I would like to double check that what is the recommended approach in your specific case. Yeah.
Yeah, but as you say, KQL responds really fast, also with large amounts of data. So it's an amazing solution.
Yeah, so it depends. I would ask, okay, what kind of application? I guess that in this case we are talking about some user application. Yeah, so it's possible, especially that there's a caching of data. So for example, in the cache you can keep last 1 day worth of data, or you can define this, of course, like last 7 days, for example, if you need. So even with those cache, your response will be very fast.
Yep. So if you have any other questions that weren't answered in the chat, you can go to the DP-700 forum, aka.ms/forum/DP-700, where you can ask your questions, and we will probably hang out there. Other people will hang out there as well and answer your questions.
Exactly. And then if you have any additional question, visit the Fabric Community Hub and submit your ticket.
Yes. And with that, we've come to an end of this session. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure for us. And hopefully you learned something new. Great. Have a great day. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.